Hey, good morning, everybody. Right into it. The NDP will support Trudeau's budget, his ridiculous inflationary budget. And here we have our CTV news reporter going into Jagmeet.
Agreement with the Liberals. Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the NDP, is here live in studio now to talk more about that. Hi, Mr. Singh. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
I appreciate you making the time. Why did you wait 2 weeks to say you support the budget when nothing tangibly changed in the interim?
Well, first off, we wanted to show that we were serious about looking at the budget to make sure what we had fought for was actually there. We want to confirm the things that we secured in the budget, like the school food program, the pharmacare, the dental care, and diabetes medication and device coverage, as well as the Renters Protection Fund. So when we were briefed about it, when we read it, we wanted to make sure that what we had fought for was actually showing up in the budget, and we were confident that that's there. Then we were concerned about certain things, and I raised those concerns, the disability benefit not being enough. And really, that clawbacks were particularly concerning to us. It could put a person living with disabilities in a worse off position, potentially, and that's completely wrong. And I raised that with the Prime Minister directly, and I said, this is wrong, and this can't happen. And there was an openness to addressing those concerns. In addition, I raised concerns about the Jordan's principle not being met. And that's another area where I'm really concerned about. The federal government made a commitment that if an Indigenous child needs care, that the care should be delivered first, jurisdiction worked out afterwards.
So Jagmeet's saying, I'm going to keep propping up Trudeau and ruining Canada, allowing Trudeau to ruin Canada. So I'm ruining Canada because Trudeau has an openness to fixing his budget. We don't agree with his budget. There's not enough money to support what we actually want to do. But he said he has an openness to the NDP. Don't worry. We'll figure it out. Just keep us both propped up so we both get paid.
Well, the federal government's missing that requirement almost 70% of the time, which is a very serious concern. So I raised that with the Prime Minister, and I heard some openness to addressing that. After hearing those concerns being addressed, or an openness to addressing them, I've said now we are prepared to support.
So your support is essentially contingent on an openness from the government. Like, there are lots of things the government has appeared open to, which it has not followed through on. Particularly, let's take the example of the disability benefit. It is horrifyingly low, according to advocates, right? $200 a month, when they set expectations that it would bring people out of poverty. How can you support a budget that does that just because the Prime Minister sounds open to addressing a concern?
Well, let's be clear. We agree that with the advocates, if this was an NDP government, we wouldn't allow for this to happen. We would never done this. This is what the Liberals have done, and we are going to continue.
If this was our NDP government, we would never have had this happen. Says, what a loser. What a loser. He is the reason Trudeau is doing what he's doing. Oh yeah, we're going to support the budget, but if this was our government, we wouldn't do this at all.
You attack them, put pressure on them to improve this. They have not shown a willingness to improve the amount, and we think they're wrong. And so we'll continue to mount pressure on them. We'll continue to raise our concerns. We'll continue to fight back. Often with this government, what we've seen is right now, dental care is a great example. It's being rolled out right now. There were many times on this journey where the Liberals said no. They voted against it twice in the past. They said it couldn't happen. They couldn't deliver it. Now seniors are receiving this care. This is testament to New Democrats persevering, fighting for people, and delivering.
Yeah, the seniors, great. Yeah, you got no teeth, but we got a little bit of dental care. In fact, did you know the dentists are pushing back against this whole thing? They're not even signing up for this bureaucratic bullshit. There's so many loopholes and bureaucracy involved that the dentist, there was a whole letter about this from the Denti Association. They're like, we're not going along with this, Jagmeet. This doesn't work. We're not going to do this.
Similarly, with the disability benefit, we fought for that. Now, the Liberals have failed. They haven't delivered what was expected. Like you put it, the advocates have said this is not what we wanted. And on top of that, the advocates said, their criteria in terms of eligibility said, please, at a minimum, don't make it based on the disability tax credit. And that's exactly what the Liberals did. So we're concerned about that. We think that's a big problem. And we've addressed that. I've raised that directly with the Prime Minister, and I expect to see solutions.
But you have something available to you that few others do. You have the power to actually sway the vote. The Conservatives and the Bloc were going to vote against. If you added your party's votes to that, the budget would be defeated, the government would go down. And that would be in parallel to how you describe this government. You have said Justin Trudeau is a failed leader who is bad for Canada, and yet you're not willing to actually vote in that manner. You are keeping them in power despite your concerns, despite saying something like that.
Well, the facts are Canadians chose him as prime minister. What we're doing is using our power to get the most we can for people. And if we voted against the budget, it would be voting against free birth control for women, free diabetes medication and devices, the child care, the dental care, the Renters Protection Fund, the protection for kids or the support for kids in school.
There he goes on his talking points. You know, this is what we've done. We got on our knees and we shook off Trudeau to get the dental plan, to get this and this. This is what I'm going to be famous for forever, guys. I'm Jagmeet. I'm famous forever for being on my knees and making sure Trudeau did a few things that we want. These tiny little things, this dental care for 80-year-old people with no teeth. So yay. And by this, I'm going to hold on to my golden goose pension. And so essentially, if I called an election tomorrow, because nobody's happy with the budget, nobody's happy with the food prices, nobody's happy with the prices of things to buy, our purchasing power of our dollar is a fucking joke. But if I call an election tomorrow, I'm going to be worse off than I am now. I'm not going to have a pension. I'm going to be fired. I'll have nothing to hang on to. None of this dental thing. Nobody's going to remember that if I'm just thrown into the garbage like I should be.
To get a nutritious meal. Those are things that we're going to support. We fought for those. We want those to move forward. Pierre Poilievre is against those things. He said right off the top he would be removing the dental care program for seniors, despite having dental care paid for with a publicly funded program for most of his adult life. He would take away the diabetes medication and the devices coverage, which we know is not only going to improve the life of people, save them money, but improve our healthcare system. So that's a different.
You know, if you really wanted to save people money so they could actually afford their medication, then maybe you should stop the inflationary budget of, I want to borrow another $1 trillion. We want to raise the debt of possible debt another $1 trillion, says Freeland, the Wicked Witch of the West. In fact, my brother and my mom, we're out here camping. They're over just right there. And for my mom's 75th birthday. And the conversation last night was hilarious because it's like, I can't believe this is real. We're in the Wizard of Oz. Chrystia Freeland literally is the fucking witch. She just needs to put the hat on, her Halloween hat on, her witch's hat, get her broom, and we are literally there. This can't be real. We are really in the Wizard of Oz Matrix, guys. What do you think in the comments? All right.
Between us and Conservatives, we want this to move ahead, but we've raised some concerns and we're going to fight to make sure
but
that those are
addressed.
How do you
reconcile telling Canadians on one hand, Justin Trudeau is a failed leader? That's your words. A failed leader who is bad for Canada. And on the other hand, essentially just telling them right now, Pierre Poilievre, I think would be worse, so I'm going to just support the budget and not make sure that they get toppled.
Well, it's not, that's not the frame at all. What I'm putting forward is that on their own, the Liberals would have done none of this. They wouldn't have done these things. They are absolutely failed in terms of what they've achieved in the past number of years. We have forced them to.
So the Liberals have absolutely failed. But I'm personally going to keep them in power. The totalitarian government, the authoritative rule of Justin Trudeau with me on his shoulder. Please do a little dental. It's like Constable Herbs on his shoulder. This guy's like an Herbs, right?
Do in 2 years. Significant things for people. The pharmacare, the childcare legislation, the dental care. These are things we forced them to do. If we were not there, they wouldn't have done them. And we've noticed they don't have the urgency.
If you were not there, wow. If you were not there, we wouldn't have food prices. $20 for a freaking cake at Lakeview Market. We wouldn't have, $10 for a piece of bread, $8 for a thing of milk. We wouldn't have, oh my God, a steak, holy crap, $100 for a piece of meat at Costco.
To respond to people's needs. When we talk about grocery prices, they allowed grocery prices to exceed general inflation for 2 years before then they
No, you allowed, you asshole.
started making announcements and still have not yet taken concrete action until we force them to bring in things like improvements to the Competition Bureau, more strings attached or more teeth attached to legislation to give
Do you
more
think
power.
it's you that forced them or public outcry that forced them?
Oh, we absolutely forced them. There's no question about it. Their approach was, on their own, was to call the CEOs and ask them nicely to lower their prices. And then Champagne then said, come out and check out. Minister Champagne said, look at...
You just said that, oh, well, Trudeau says he's open to talks in the future, even about, we need a little more something in the budget for what we want. That's the exact same thing. Oh, please talk with me nicely. Let's send him some emails. Can you please help me? You're the exact same thing.
Flyers, grocery flyers, prices are coming down. And then say, you know what, I actually don't know if they're coming down. That was the Liberals' approach until we forced them to bring in concrete legislation
But what's changed?
to give more protection.
Even as a result, even if we take that at face value, prices are still terrible at the grocery store.
Yeah. Well,
so again,
the changes have come in just now, so they impact.
But you're keeping a government in power that is presiding over that. Like, you alone are responsible for keeping them in power and calling him a failed leader.
Well, I think that's not the fair way to look at this. The scenario is...
No, that's not fair at all. Oh my God. Good job.
We're forcing them to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. Their decisions are their decisions.
You're forcing Canadians to be under this regime, you fuck.
Failures are their failures. We're using our power to force them to do things they wouldn't otherwise do.
Power.
The fact that the Liberals are failing people, that's for the Liberals to answer. If I was Prime Minister, I would take responsibility. I would own that. I'm not Prime
If I was Prime Minister, don't even say those words. You can't even fit that under your hat.
Minister. Right now, Justin Trudeau is. And if he fails to bring in the sufficient amount for disability benefits for those people, he is failing those people. I'm saying that it should be much.
No, you're failing them by allowing this to happen. It's like, you got to find a funny analogy for this. You guys think about it. It's like the guy with the bridge allowing Trudeau to cross to destroy the people on the other side. So the bridge keeper is, say, Jagmeet. And it's like, no, it's his fault that he walked over my bridge and killed and genocided those people. It's not my fault that I let him across the bridge.
Higher, and I would make it higher if I was in power.
And look, I understand that those questions on their policies should be directed at them. And believe me, they get those questions for sure.
Of course.
But in the case, for example, of the disability benefit, you had 2 weeks. What does it say that you weren't able to force any of those changes? And ultimately, if you don't, what is the effectiveness of the agreement that you have in place? He's a failed leader, according to you. He's not doing the things that you wanted for the most vulnerable Canadians. Like, what's the point?
It shows that he's out of touch. It's evidence that
Doesn't it show that you are too?
No, it shows the Liberals are out of touch because it is the Liberals that are in power.
Things that you wanted for the most vulnerable Canadians. Like, what's the point?
It shows that he's out of touch. It's evidence that
Doesn't
the Liberals...
it show that you are too?
No, it shows the Liberals are out of touch because it is the Liberals that are in power. The Liberals are the ones that are calling the shots.
And you built the bridge to allow them to be in power. What a fool. He's getting roasted.
We're using our 25 MPs. Liberals have far more MPs. They're in power. They won the election. We are forcing them to do things they wouldn't otherwise do. We brought in dental care. We brought in pharmacare. We're making people's lives better with the power that we have. The Liberals don't believe that they can actually make people's lives better. They continue to act as if they don't have the power.
Literally only 20% of the vote. The Liberals got only 20% of the vote. And then these guys have their other 10, 12% of the vote, 15, whatever it is, to make this bullshit majority. This is the bridge that is killing Canada.
To change things. They want to just cruise by. They have no urgency. We're forcing them to do things. There'll come a time when there's an election. And I'll put to Canadians, look at how out of touch Justin Trudeau was as Prime Minister, how disconnected he was from the struggles you're going through. We fought and forced him to do things that made your life better, but give up.
Jagmeet thinks if he can hold on to his Golden Goose pension and hold on to his policies, his 1, 2, 3, 4 bangers that he keeps throwing out, like, oh my God, that when there is an election in a year and a half, October of 2025, like if we're all still alive then, and we're not fully sucked into the military industrial complex and everybody's fucking begging for crumbs, that we're going to vote, and people are going to vote NDP because of his 1, 2, 3, 4 punch.
The opportunity to be in power and imagine what we could do together.
I have to ask you the blunt political question. I just have time for one more,
Sure.
which is that people will say you're not willing to take the step of voting against them or forcing an election because you'd lose. And you'd lose big in the next election. I looked at 3 separate polls. Angus Reid had you at 19%, Abacus at 17%, Nanos at 16%. Your fundraising is $6.8 million compared to $35 million for the Conservatives, $15.6 to the Liberals. Are you just not forcing an election because you don't think you can win?
We're going to have an election, and I'm ready to run as prime minister for this country. Until then, I'm going to squeeze as much as I can from this government to make sure people get relief.
But then could be
I
now.
want to see the job. I want to see the job done for the dental care. I want to see it rolled out. I want to see seniors to get it. I want to see them start accessing the program, and then people can make a choice. Do they want to keep the dental care program or not? Once they see the benefits of it, I want people to make an informed choice. Then Pierre Poilievre will take it away from you. I want to keep it and expand it. People can make a choice on it. I want to see people get diabetes, medication and devices, and free birth control. And then Canadians can choose. Do you want that to continue, or do you want Pierre Poilievre to take it away? Because we know Pierre Poilievre, what he wants to do. He wants to cut pensions. He wants to cut EI. He wants to cut dental care, pharmacare. He wants to cut all
He wants to cut inflation, you douchebag.
those things. I want people to have an informed decision
But they
when they
could
make their
make that
choice.
decision now. You could force that
It's not an
decision
informed
now.
decision.
You don't think any
Not
of
at
that's
all.
informed? You don't
It's
think
not-
you don't
because
think after
people don't
9
have-
years the
people
Canadians
don't
don't know
have-
what they're in for with
No,
this
no.
government?
People don't know the benefit of something that's not in there. Their diabetes medication is not covered right now.
But
Birth
don't you
control
think they
isn't
have a
free right now.
perception of the government right now?
No, I want people to make an informed decision around the benefit of these programs before Pierre Poilievre proposes to cut them. I want people to
Dude.
see, how does this improve your life? And then you can choose. If you want Pierre Poilievre to take that away, you want him to cut pensions, cut EI, and to cut these programs we fought for, people can make that choice once they see the benefit. I want to see people to actually benefit from these things and see how it changes their lives and
No, I think you want to see your only golden goose benefit. This guy is a narcissist. He only cares about his pension, guys.
reduces their costs, improves their health. And then people can choose what they want. They want to keep it or not.
So I read there is no chance of you being responsible for an election happening before the date that's set out. A year and a half
Ultimately,
from
we
now.
see that the Prime Minister and the Liberal government will call the election when they want. We're going to fight as hard as we can to get people as much help as possible. And Pierre Poilievre wants to cut it all.
Okay, I'm going to leave it on that note, Mr.
Holy crap, guys. What a piece of garbage. What a piece of garbage. I can't believe we just made it through that whole Jagmeet Singh piece of shit. Oh, what do you guys think, man? What do you think? Jagmeet, is he the bridge that is killing Canada? Like, subscribe, and share to try to fight this YouTube bullshit algorithm. Because it's such a... I'm censored by like 99% in terms of percentage. Just like on the Twitter files that proved that they were shadow banning on ratios at any ratio they want.